In this video, I'll be giving you guys a full step-by-step editing breakdown of how I created these LEGO Formula 1 photos. So for these Formula 1 photos, I decided to go with this empty parking lot. I obviously needed somewhere with concrete, asphalt, something to act as the road, but I also needed to be somewhere that wasn't in the way of actual cars. So here are the raw photos that I took. These are the ones that I'm going to use, so let's go into Lightroom and start editing. One really important tip for LEGO photography is to always edit the lighting in Lightroom before doing any effects in Photoshop. If you add any effects before the lighting, once you actually go to change the lighting, the effects lighting will be changed as well. Take these photos that I've done, for example. If I had edited the lightsabers or the fire effect before changing the lighting, then the color of the lightsabers and the fire would change as well, which is not ideal. So always fix the lighting first, then make edits after. So to start editing this photo, I played around with the different settings under the light tab, just making small adjustments here and there until I ended up with something that I liked. I then went down to the color tab and upped the temperature a little bit before going back up to the exposure and lowering it some more to complete the look. Here's a quick look at the raw image versus the lighting adjustments we just made. The last thing I want to add is a vignette, so we'll go down to the effects tab and add a slight vignette to the image. A vignette just darkens the edges, which makes the subject more prominent and naturally draws your attention there. So now that the lighting on this photo is done, I want to copy this same look on all the other photos. To do that, we're simply going to come down here and hit the copy edit settings. Now we can just add in our other images, hit paste edit settings, and now those exact adjustments are copied onto all the other photos. This is a huge time saver, and now I don't have to go in and edit all of these individually. Now that we've adjusted the lighting, we're ready to add the speed effect. So now we've moved from Lightroom to Photoshop, so let's add the speed effect. So I use 18 by 24 dimensions for my photos, so I fitted my photo in that layout and made sure the photo was dead center. After that, I duplicated the image and put it right over top dead center so that they're perfectly aligned. A good way to check that they're perfectly aligned is if you turn off the visibility on the top image, the image shouldn't change. The next step is we need to isolate the car on its own layer. Just the car on the top layer and the background on the bottom layer. So to do that, we're going to make sure that the top layer is selected, then go to the object selection tool. Photoshop will do its best to select the object in the photo, in this case, the car. So we can just click on the highlighted area to create our selection. Photoshop did a pretty good job of that, so now we can double click the selection, hit save selection, and we can choose to rename it if we want. I usually don't, so just click OK. Then go to the move tool and hit copy and paste to create a new layer with just the car. Now we can delete that second layer so we have just a car layer and a background layer. Now comes the fun part where we add the main speed effect. Make sure that the bottom background layer is selected, then go up to the top of the screen, hit filter, blur, and then motion blur. So obviously the car is going in this direction, so we want the angle of our motion blur to match it. So we can turn this dial here so that the line is going the same direction as the car, or we can adjust it with the numbers by degrees. Now we can come down to the bottom and play with the intensity of the blur. The higher you go, the more intense the blur will be. I settled around at 276, but you can adjust this however you want depending on your image. So our background looks like it's moving really fast, but our car still looks completely still. So to fix that, we're going to add a motion blur to the wheels to make them look like they're spinning really fast. So to do that, we'll make sure that the car layer is selected, and we'll zoom in on the wheel just to make this a little easier. Photoshop will try to select the entire car again, but we don't want that, so we'll just drag a square across the wheel to select just that. So Photoshop did its best, but still quite a bit of the wheel was left out, so we'll go to the quick selection tool and fill in any of the remaining spots left out. Do your best to fill in the entire wheel, but it doesn't need to be perfect as it's going to be blurred out anyway. So that's the best we're gonna get, so we'll do the same exact thing, hit save selection, click OK, go to the move tool, hit copy and paste, then go back to filter, blur, then motion blur. So the angle is already in the right direction, so I just lowered the intensity down to about 50. And now we'll just repeat the same exact process with the other wheel. So here's the final image. I really liked how this one turned out. So for this image, the way I achieved the motion blur was slightly different. I followed the same steps to isolate the car on its own layer, but instead of using motion blur, I went down to radial blur. Radial blur has a slightly different effect than motion blur, and since the car is moving directly at the screen and not in a straight line, we're going to use this instead. So we'll change the blur method to zoom and then play around with the intensity once again until we're happy with it. So I went with 33 and clicked OK. I think that turned out pretty well. I don't really have to edit the wheels at all because it already looks like they're spinning, so we're good there. So there you have it. That's a behind the scenes look of how I edit these LEGO Formula 1 photos. If you're interested in seeing other photos that I've done, you can head to my Instagram and check it out there. Also, if you're interested to see what gear I use for LEGO photography, you can go to my Instagram bio and see all the links to all of my gear. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.